well, this is gonna be part 6 of Project Defiance here, and this is a super exciting one. So this is actually where we're gonna get into installing the front long travel kit. So in the previous episode here, the fuse box actually got relocated up higher to be able to clear the tires, and we got that front core support mount, cross member mount, all that done. So now we are able to get to throwing this long travel kit on. This is gonna be the Izzy Fab long travel race kit. This is the MIG version of it. He does offer a TIG version of it. It is at an additional cost with everything in this industry. So right now I've got the lower control arms up, and then next I'm actually gonna get to throwing these shock towers on. So with this kit, it actually allows for a 2.5 and 4.0 bypass in it. But in our case right now, we are going to be running a 2.5 coilover and a 3.0 bypass, which is plenty to get us out there. But the main thing is having that room to upgrade. Because if you ever decide, hey, I wanna go 3.5, hey, I wanna go 4.0, all you really have to do is change out the bolts, pull these out, and throw your bigger shocks in. It's gonna be one of the easiest upgrades you do just because you did it right in the first place. So I know there's a million different types of long travel kits. In our case right now, we're going to what the industry seems to be terming the long travel race kit, which is actually when you clear off everything for the shock mounts on the frame and actually relocate everything on an aftermarket shock tower like this, get it tied in either with a cross member, or in this, we're actually doing a full engine cage, which ties everything in, which allows a lot less flex in the frame. So let's get to getting those thrown on. So just like that, one of the first things I start doing is start getting these reservoirs, all the ends taped up. I use painter's tape because it leaves no residue. But that way, as you're trying to get all these shocks fit in, these are brand new, they're expensive. You just don't want to be scratching the ano off of them. So highly recommend that for getting into the next part, where now I'm gonna actually start getting this lower control arm lifted up to about where I think it's gonna be. And then we're gonna use that shock to sit here and keep that shock tower where I think it should be, and then we can adjust from there. Well, right now we have the coilover actually mounted in place. Obviously this isn't tacked, but I figured I'd take a second to talk about shanking your bolts. As you can see, the shank just barely pokes out right there with a washer. The nut will go and clamp right on that. So with that being said, when I took the last kit off, I noticed as I took out the hardware, you'd have it where the threads are just worn down to almost nothing. And that's because the entire weight on the truck is sitting from that tab, is sitting right there on those threads, which obviously isn't the same amount of surface area as this flat area here. So if you actually take the time, go through and shank all these bolts, you have the entire weight of the truck sitting right here, which is gonna cause your hardware to be much stronger and last much longer. And in this case, it's just gonna be a safer way to do it. So if you're going this far, I suggest do it once, do it right, shank all your bolts. It should be something that's more popular than it is, but obviously I get it when you're talking about prefabricated kits like this. It's gonna take a lot longer to have somebody go through, cut off all the ends of these and do them right, but this is your opportunity to do it right. So with that being said, let's get this bypass on now. Well, this is heavily going to oversimplify this process right here. So basically the main goal is we have the lower control arm right here, and we got to find 90 degrees from that lower control arm right there. So we've basically found it after hitting it with a rubber mallet back and forth, and then using these clamps trying to make sure the shocks are at the exact same angle. And this is a crucial part to how this kit handles in the end. For one, you're trying to get every bit of the cycle of the shocks, but also this is where your upper control arm bases off of. So where this lands is crucial to the rest of the geometry of the kit. So really, you cannot mess up on this part here. So with that, we've finally found it, and I'm gonna go ahead and start tacking this on now. We got the shock tower welded on. Next, we're going to start working on these front upper control arm mounts here. So with this kit, one of the things that's very different from the other kits is this one actually runs a J arm. So the mounts actually go in front, and then the upper control arm is a J that goes around. It's part of the reason it fits as big of a shock package as it does. So from right here, we've measured from the lower control arm, we've hit these at 90. So my goal is to keep these 90 going across, so that way I know we aren't messing with the geometry of the kit here. That. And we'll throw her on there since we know it's already at 90 there. Now, one of the most exciting parts about this kit is we finally got these billet upper control arms back from powder coat. So now let's get these on. Now we got 0 right there, and moving up here, zeroed out. So this kit is ready to go. So it's time to get Dylan over here. We're gonna have him burn everything in, and that is permanent. So then we're gonna get to getting that upright on, and we'll start clearancing for tires and get the shock towers actually put into the engine case. Just like that, Dylan has done all the final welding on these shock towers here. So now next up, I mean, this is an option to do before or after. I really just wanted to have everything placed in, and then I'm going to be going through and actually plating this whole frame right here. So here's a mailer that I have right here, and kind of use this to sit here and cut these templates out. And obviously it'll be the same thing on the other side of the frame. And then I have traced them out here. All right, well, unless you wanted 3 hours of me cutting plates, bending them, throwing them away, cutting plates, bending them, and then throwing more away, we're just gonna skip forward right here. So this whole front section of the frame, I've gotten all of that done. All of these have little bends and tweaks in them. It's all 120 wall chromoly all the way through. And then I've also gotten this all plated right there. And then on top of that, I've actually gotten these 2 top tubes right here to the shock towers landed. And another section right there where I threw away so much tubing trying to get these notched right, and then ending up throwing them into the trash over and over. So with that being said, we are skipping forward. And next on the list is we're gonna actually be throwing the kit on, and then we're gonna start cycling it so we can set where that bump stop's gonna land. Because the next thing we were gonna get ready to do is land these 2 tubes into that bump stop right there. So let's get that started. All right, so here you can see that I've taken the cap out of this bump right here, taped the ends of them, and I've actually taken the air out of them. That way they stay completely compressed. So right here we have the kit all on and completely bottomed out on the shock here. You notice I actually have the spring collar on, and I actually threw an 1/8 inch little spacer in the bottom there. That way I know at this point, if we bump it out here, there's no way that even if the cap falls out, there's no way that these shocks are going to sit here and completely get annihilated by my own misinstall. So here you can see that we've set this. One of the other things you want to make sure is that this upper control arm is completely inward, so you don't have the heims just barely sitting in there. That way you make sure that with that you don't all of a sudden sit here and get in alignment and now your bump's hanging off the end over where the upright's at. So we have that set right there. And we're gonna kind of take some measurements and tack it in place, and we're gonna get ready to go. So let's get to doing that next. All right, and there she is. As you can see, we are sitting there almost dead nuts. All right, and now time to get these two tubes tied in right here to that bump stop can. And that way everything is all completely reinforced. And then after that, we should be good to start plumbing in brakes and getting the front tires on. All right, so just like that, we've got this first one landed right here on that bump stop can. Now the next one's actually gonna come from this corner right here and drop down to the other side of the bump stop can right there. One of the things first is this tube behind here actually isn't fully welded in. So one of the things I'm gonna do, since that tube's gonna go over and cover up, I'm gonna make sure that weld gets fully done behind there. So that way when we cover it up, that's actually fully 360 welded inside as well. All right, well now that we got that junction all welded in, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna trace that tube right there so I can get a notch out of it. These are made by Central Manufacturing or something like that. So I'm gonna go and take this, I'm gonna follow that plane, and notice there is a top side that's marked on this so you don't lose which way that you're going. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna follow this up all the way to my junction, and I wanna match right there in the center where all those tubes meet up. That's gonna be it right there. And that will be my trace. Now, one of the things I do is I actually take a piece of tape and I wrap this. That way, when I go to trace this on my tube, I know nothing's moved from the original piece. So there we go, let's go trace our tube. Well, while I was finishing up that last notch right there, my angle grinder right here actually decided it's time. I got a nice little spark and the breaker trip, so I actually had to go down and got myself a brand new one. So this time I actually went wireless, since I'm not gonna be sitting there for 2 hours trying to grind off frame plates. I think the battery one is gonna do just fine for me. So now we're gonna finish up this notch here. All right, and just like that, there's our notch. So that goes and slides in just like that. So let's get it tacked in now. All right, well, now we have everything in here, all final welded in. All those junctions, everything is all tied in, and then now we have all of these frame plates completed. That's all, again, 4130 chromoly, which should really help with the rigidness of the frame up here. And then also
You know, stock, it's about an 1/8 inch thick, and now it's like having 1/4 inch plate all the way across through here. So this should be awesome. So next up, we're actually gonna start bolting on this kit and then clearing the way for 40s. So let's get to it. Now, if you've been on Instagram, you have seen that this is the new wheel and tire package. These are the 40 by 12.5 17 BFG KR3s. Now, a lot of people say that once you go to 40-inch tires, you can basically kiss your rack goodbye. You're gonna be breaking them every single weekend, or you're gonna be snapping hubs every single weekend. And I don't necessarily believe that is true. Not in the case, at least with going with these tires. When you're talking the additional weight when you're going to a tire like this, these are 85 pounds. So to compare to your standard Toyo MT 37-inch 12.5 17, these weigh the same amount as those. So there is no additional weight. Now, I am in the belief that the bigger the tire, the smaller the bumps, and it really doesn't get a whole lot bigger than this for pre-runners. So with that, I feel like being concerned about weight, I also went with a forged bead lock on these. These wheels weigh 26 pounds a piece. Now, when I compare it to the methods I had prior, those are 35 pounds a piece. So the forged rims come in a lot lighter. So technically, I went up massively in tire size, but I also dropped about 10 pounds in weight. My previous tires weighed almost 90 pounds. So maybe I'm doing my math wrong. That's kind of closer to 15 pounds. But with that, and with the level we are taking this truck to, I have decided to do a hub upgrade, which is going to be these Camburg 2.0 hubs. So a lot of people say when you are going to these bigger tires and stuff that you want to do a minimum 2.5 inch hub, which is what I have on the rear. Now, a lot of people don't know, there's plenty of trucks still running 40-inch tires doing the Baja 1000 with a 2.0 hub because they are lighter, for one. And also, if you want to get really in depth, they also, when you're going to a 2.5 inch hub, you start moving this mounting point further and further out, which starts screwing up your scrub radius and starts making it to where it's way more stress on other parts. So I personally have come to the belief that the 2.0 hub is going to be the superior choice for the front of this truck. For one, I don't have to change out my whole braking package. I also believe that they are plenty strong. There's plenty of people running the same exact weight wheel and tire package on stock hubs. I would say 95% of these trucks are doing that. So I believe the 2.0s are a massive hub upgrade, and I don't necessarily believe that the 2.5 inch hubs are a better choice. So let's get these mounted on the uprights. Well, that's gonna just about wrap up this episode. As you can see, the tire fits when it's straight, but we are gonna need some serious trimming back here for that tire to turn. And then also up here on the core support, we're gonna need some more serious trimming. I may actually cut all this out and then make a bracket to kind of hold the headlight in there. So kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But overall, super stoked. All right, well, that's gonna just about do it for this episode. We have the front long travel kit all installed. One of the questions that I keep on getting raised is why would I cut off a Dirt King long travel race kit and go to an Izzy Fab race kit? There are, that's a tough question because I love Dirt King. Dirt King makes a great kit. I personally believe that the Izzy Fab kit is a slightly more superior kit when it comes to geometry, when it comes to packaging, We're gonna be bumped off the upper. It's going to be able to fit a 4.0 bypass. I really believe that shock size is something that's huge when it comes to the overall handling. You know, I would rather take a 4.0 bypass on 15 inches of travel than a 3.0 bypass on 18 inches of travel. It's just going to work better. And I feel like anybody that's in the shock tuning world is gonna understand that. So I feel like this was a major upgrade. Was it necessary? Would I have done it again? I still think yes, it added a ton of work, but I was already unhappy with the Dirt King kit install that I had done prior. But I've learned a lot over the years, and it's kind of nice to go over this again, and in my opinion, do it absolutely right and correctly and to my level of what I feel should be necessary on these front kits. With that being said, the Izzy Fab kit is much harder to install. I did install a Dirt King kit on a buddy's truck in the driveway about 2 weeks ago, and it went together a lot easier. And it's just, you know, the A-arms versus J-arms, it's a lot easier to get it leveled out. It's a lot easier to get everything cycled right. But I really do think the J-arm is worth it. It's, in my opinion, the best long travel kit available on the market today. So with that being said, you know, we have a lot left on this project. Obviously, we have to clear for the 40s. Next, we got to figure out where overflow tanks are going to go for the, you know, radiator. We have to figure out where the intake's going to go. We have to figure out where the batteries are going to go. We have a lot of little packaging stuff to get done up there. And then also the most exciting part is getting the front glass on. So a lot of cutting, a lot of trimming, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to fit those 40s, and this thing is going to look awesome. So with that being said, stoked that a lot of you guys keep on watching these, and I hope to be coming out with them sooner. It just seems that there's random hiccups along the way, whether it be waiting on parts, whether parts just weren't right, or just there's a lot of complications you run into that you can plan everything perfectly and it doesn't work out. And you just kind of got to get used to that. It's part of the game and it's part of the build process. So again, stoked you guys keep on watching, and hopefully I have the next episode coming out pretty soon here. So peace.